Why I inherited a deteriorating house while my sister got $950K. The shocking truth revealed. The news hit like a lightning bolt on a clear day. The kind of news that sends shivers down your spine and leaves you gasping for air. Sarah couldn't believe what she was hearing. A sprawling estate, crumbling and haunting, inherited from her estranged father while her sister, Brenda, walked away with nearly $1 million. It felt unfair, downright outrageous. Why did she get the house that looked like it belonged on a horror movie set? A dilapidated structure with peeling paint and shattered windows, whispering secrets of a life past. It loomed over her like a specter, and the unsettling night sounds made her skin crawl. It started with that phone call. A voice laced with sympathy yet dripping with judgment. Your father has passed and the estate is yours. That house. The words echoed in her mind, each syllable heavy with irony. She remembered family gatherings in that house, laughter trapped behind cracked walls and shadowy corners. But those memories felt tainted now, tangled with resentment. Brenda's smug satisfaction danced in her thoughts like a cruel ghost. $950K, and all Sarah had was this decaying money pit. As the days shifted by, the old house creaked, revealing its hidden mysteries. The more Sarah explored, the more shocking secrets unfolded. Strange symbols scratched on door frames, an eerie chill even on the warmest evenings, and whispers that felt almost sentient. Was something in that house waiting for her. A scrap of old newspaper fluttered to the floor as she opened a closet, detailing a scandal involving her father's early life, a story blurred by years of silence. Each page pulled her deeper into a tangled web of lies and forgotten lives. Could Brenda have known? It was impossible. But the more Sarah thought, the tighter her chest felt, and the lump in her throat grew larger. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The tension was almost unbearable now. Sarah found herself standing in the dilapidated kitchen, the smell of mildew hanging in the air like a thick fog. Something caught her eye, a photograph peeking from behind the rusted stove. She pulled it out, breath hitching in her throat. It was an old picture of her father, but beside him stood a woman Sarah had never seen before. Who was she? What did he hide? Questions clawed at her mind, and the mystery deepened. Was there a connection between the woman and the house? What if this was only the beginning of uncovered secrets? As shadows danced on the walls, Sarah felt the weight of her inheritance shift, leaving her staring into the unknown, eager for the next revelation that would surely come. The photograph trembled in her hands as a shiver ran down Sarah's spine. Who was that woman? The deep shadows of the past suddenly felt palpable, gathering around her like a heavy fog. Gritting her teeth, she forced herself to step closer to the flickering light bulb swinging from the ceiling. Its soft glow barely reached the darkest corners, but she needed to know. Tucking the photograph into her pocket, Sarah made her way down the narrow hall. Each step was an echo, a reminder that this house was saturated with history, and for the first time, she felt its weight, not just the decrepit wood and peeling wallpaper, but the lives it had held inside. The whispering grew louder, almost melodic, beckoning her to discover what lay beyond. She paused outside the door of her father's old study, hesitation pinching her heart. The door hung slightly ajar, as if it were waiting for her. Taking a deep breath, she pushed it open. Dust motes danced in the dim light, and the scent of stale paper brushed against her nostrils. Old books lined the shelves, their spines cracked and covered in dust. A large desk, cluttered with yellowed papers, loomed in the center. And there it was, a journal, half hidden under a stack of faded letters. Her fingers trembled as she picked it up. The leather binding was worn, edges frayed as if it had lived through countless storms. With a sense of trepidation, she opened it. The handwriting was familiar, almost like familiar whispers calling out to her. The first page sent her heart racing. It detailed an affair. A long, passionate affair that had torn her father's life apart, complete with names and dates, one of them matching the woman in the photograph. Her hands shook as she mulled over the words, the revelation churning in her gut. She was not just a ghost of the past. She was part of a story far more sordid than Sarah had ever imagined. Fury bubbled within her. Had Brenda known? Could that be the real reason she had come out ahead while Sarah got stuck with a rotting house? The resentment spread like wildfire. There was a scandal buried beneath layers of neglect in this house. The house wasn't merely a physical structure. It was a crypt filled with secrets and simmering rage. As she flipped through more pages, a name jumped out that made her heart race. Richard. Could this have been some kind of family secret? Richard was someone she'd never heard of. A brother? A long-lost relative? The chaotic thoughts drowned her senses. Just then, a sudden crash reverberated through the house like a clap of thunder. Sarah jumped, her heart pounding in her chest. The noise had come from the attic. Wide-eyed and alert now, it felt as though the house itself was alive, urging her to expose whatever else lay buried in its depths. An adrenaline rush coursed through her. She had to see for herself. She dropped the journal back onto the desk, her heart racing with a strange mix of fear and determination. Climbing the rickety staircase, a disquiet hung in the air, thick enough to choke on. Shadows flickered at the edges of her vision. An unsettling feeling crept up her spine as she reached for the attic door. What waited for her inside? But the moment she pushed the door open, a gust of chilling wind swept past her. The attic was dark, cluttered. Just then she heard a soft voice, soft yet strangely familiar. Whispers echoed in the distance, drawing her in. Was it the house calling to her or something else altogether? She took a hesitant step inside, the weight of legacy heavy on her shoulders. What would she find? The deeper she dug, the more danger awaited. And the question lingered. Would the truth set her free or destroy her? The house was waiting. The shadows swirled like ghosts, each corner of the attic filled with secrets yearning to be unleashed. Sarah could almost hear the thudding of her own heart as she moved further inside. The whispers intensified, seemingly weaving through the unseen specters of her family's past. "Who's there?" she called out, her voice trembling as it blended with the cold air. Silence swallowed her words. But just as she was about to turn back, a flicker of light caught her attention. In the far corner of the attic lay an old trunk, half shrouded in darkness. Hints of faded gold trim glinted under a beam of moonlight seeping through a cracked window. An irresistible urge pulled her closer. She knelt before the trunk and felt the rusted latch with her fingertips. It felt like the last piece of the puzzle, begging to be opened. With a creaking protest, the lid swung open, releasing a musty odor that hinted at years of neglect. Inside, layers of yellowed newspaper clippings and personal letters lay scattered. Her hands dug through the contents, eager for answers, yet her mind screamed for her to stop. A photograph slipped out, fluttering to the floor. As she picked it up, her breath hitched. It was a black and white image of her father standing next to a woman, the very same woman from her earlier photo, eyes bright and full of life. But there was something different about this picture. Her father's expression was one of longing, a softness that felt horrifyingly alien. Suddenly, the attic door slammed shut. The sound echoed like a gunshot, reverberating off the rafters. Panic surged through her. Was she trapped? She rattled the doorknob, but it wouldn't budge. No one would be coming to help. "Let me out," she shouted, a mixture of fear and rage flooding her voice. But no answer came. The whispers wrapped around her, now rising to a cacophony of voices, some comforting, others chilling. The weight of the house pressed in on her, suffocating and relentless. Sarah's gaze darted back to the trunk and the letters within. They might hold the key to everything. With trembling hands, she spilled the contents onto the dusty floor. She'd uncover the truth or be consumed by the overwhelming shadows of her family's secrets. Buried within the fragile pages, one letter caught her attention, its edges frayed and ink faded. The handwriting was sharp yet familiar, sending chills down her spine. It was a letter addressed to Richard. Her stomach twisted into knots. Was this Richard the same name she had seen in her father's journal? As she unfolded it, the whispers quieted, as if the house itself held its breath. The letter spoke of betrayal, of a love that defied all boundaries, and of a secret that could destroy everything. Her heartbeat intensified with each word, nausea rising as the implications sank in. "Sarah," a voice called softly from the darkness. That voice, it sounded so familiar but laced with something unsettling. "Who are you?" She called into the void, exhaling unsteady breaths that clouded in front of her like wisps of smoke. The shadows shifted, twisting in ways that felt alive. She took a step back, feeling the trunk dig into her heels. "Help me find the truth," the voice urged, low and compelling. And with that, a sudden rush of icy wind swept through the attic, extinguishing the only light source and the suffocating dark. Sarah felt an inexplicable pull toward the voice. It was guiding her deeper into the mystery of a family long fractured. She had no choice but to follow, propelled by fear and a growing sense of purpose. The echoes of betrayal were just beginning to surface. What darkness awaited her at the heart of the story? The house was no longer just a relic of the past, it was alive, and it demanded its secrets be revealed. Would she emerge unscathed? Or would her quest for truth unravel everything she thought she knew? The darkness clung to her like a wet blanket, thick and oppressive. Heart pounding in her chest, Sarah struggled to focus on the voice that beckoned her through the shadows. "Help me find the truth," it echoed, wrapping around her like tendrils, both inviting and menacing. "Where are you?" she called, her voice trembling but determined. The only answer was a rustle from the far corner, and the attic's dimensions seemed to shift, growing larger and more threatening. With a deep breath, she pushed forward, taking hesitant steps toward the source of the voice. Cold air brushed against her skin, carrying the scent of mildew and dust. She wished she had a flashlight, anything to pierce through the oppressive blackness. But she couldn't turn back. Something compelled her forward. Stronger than her fear, she moved deeper into the attic. The whispers resumed, rising and falling like a tidal wave. Some sounded angry, others desperate. "Richard," one hissed, sending chills up her spine. She gripped the letter in her hand like a lifeline. Whatever was waiting for her was tied to that name. She had to know more. Then another flicker, faint but distinct. A dim glow materialized near the trunk, illuminating a figure cloaked in shadows. It was a silhouette of a woman, her features obscured, but the sadness radiating from her was palpable. "You came," the figure breathed, her voice echoing like a forgotten lullaby. "Who are you?" Sarah fought to keep her composure, but her knees felt weak. "I am the key to your past," the figure replied cryptically. Hope mingled with dread in Sarah's chest. "You must listen. It's the only way to break the cycle." "Cycle?" Sarah echoed, her voice barely a whisper. The memories of her father, of her mother's whispered fears at night, all swept through her like a summer storm. "What do you mean?" Suddenly, the shadows around the trunk distorted violently, pulling Sarah's attention back to the scattered letters. The glint of an object caught her eye, a pendant lying among the debris. It was discordant against the decay, vibrant and carelessly cast aside, but it felt familiar. She bent down and picked it up. The moment her fingers brushed against the cool metal, a surge of energy shot through her, transcending the attic's gloom. Images flooded her mind, faces long forgotten, laughter that turned into cries, and that woman in the photograph with her father. It was all connected, like threads weaving a tangled tapestry. "Do you see?" the voice urged. "This pendant holds the truth, but you must face your father's betrayal and your own fear. Only then can you free us all." "I don't understand." Panic gripped her as the shadows loomed larger, as if threatening to swallow her whole. The room trembled, the whispering voices crescendoed, each syllable pulling her deeper into their madness. "Richard, let him guide you." "Stop. Where is he?" Desperation twisted in her voice. "Tell me." The figure flickered, fading into the darkness. "Only you can find him, Sarah. Only you can unlock the confession. I won't leave without answers." She shouted, but the shadows absorbed her cries. In that moment, the attic shifted again. The floor began to tremble beneath her feet, sending her stumbling back. The room closed in around her, shadows reaching with cold fingers. The energy of the pendant throbbed in her hand as fear twisted like a knife in her gut. She could feel it, the truth was right there, just out of reach. Would she succumb to the darkness, or could she pull herself from the brink and confront the secrets buried within her family? The betrayal that had haunted them for decades? As the darkness threatened to swallow her whole, a new voice broke through the chaos, a deep, steady voice that called her name. "Sarah." And then everything went black. What awaited her on the other side of consciousness? The truth could be closer than she dared imagine. Light pierced through the darkness with a blinding intensity, and Sarah gasped as she forced her eyes open. The air was no longer stagnant but filled with an uneasy energy that tingled against her skin. As she blinked away the obscured remnants of her nightmare, confusion washed over her. Where was she? Surrounded by the faint echoes of whispers, she realized she was no longer in the attic. Instead, she found herself in a small, impossibly bright room. The walls were lined with old photographs, faces from her past staring back at her, their eyes seeming to implore her for answers. Sarah, that voice again, a warm hand on her shoulder grounded her, and she turned, heart racing. It was Richard, her estranged brother. The one she hadn't spoken to since their parents had passed away. "You're okay," he said softly, his brow furrowed with concern. "What happened?" she croaked, piecing together the hazy fragments of memory. The attic, the pendant, the shadows. He shook his head, his gaze intense. "You were lost in the past. I had to bring you back." "Bring me back? What do you mean?" "We have to talk about Mom and Dad. About the estate." His voice hardened and Sarah felt a twinge of unease. The tension between them had only ever simmered beneath the surface, and now it threatened to boil over. "But the house, it was left to me. Why did you get all that money instead?" Richard shifted uncomfortably, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. "You're not seeing the whole picture, Sarah. There's more to it. The house, it's a trap. It's holding secrets just like our parents did. That's what I was trying to uncover in the attic," she exclaimed, desperation seeping in. "The woman in the shadows, she said I needed to confront the betrayal." "Yeah, the betrayal." Richard's voice trailed off, his jaw clenching. "It's not just about the money. There were things we didn't know, things we weren't supposed to find out." Panic festered in Sarah's chest as she stepped toward him. "What do you mean? What things?" The air thickened with his silence. Just then, the photographs on the wall seemed to shift, one of the frames clattering to the floor. It shattered, and Sarah gasped as a hidden envelope slid out from behind the frame. "What's that?" she asked, her heart racing, filled with an explosive mix of dread and curiosity. He stepped back, shaking his head. "Leave it. It's not worth it, Sarah." But her instinct pulled her closer. She knelt and picked up the envelope, her hands trembling. The return address was familiar, a place that brought back memories she wished to forget. "I have to know," she said, breaking the silence that hung heavy between them. "This isn't over. Don't you see?" Richard's eyes darkened. "Please don't open it." Ignoring him, she tore it open. The smell of aged paper filled her senses, and inside was a single sheet, densely packed with familiar handwriting, a letter that seemed to pulsate with the weight of their family's history. As she skimmed the words, each line was like a blade, slicing deeper into the fabric of their past. The truths revealed within were shocking. Links to betrayals that flowed wider than she'd ever imagined. Betrayals that implicated not only her parents but also Richard himself. "Sarah, you need to put that down," he shouted, reaching for her. "I have to know," she yelled back, eyes wide with revelations. "I deserve to know the truth." Suddenly, the walls began to pulse with the same energy she felt in the attic, an overwhelming force that threatened to suffocate her. Panic surged through her veins as images from the letter swarmed her mind. Visions intertwined with the echo of whispers turned screams. The space around her swirled, shadows creeping back in, dark tendrils reaching for her. Richard's voice was drowned out by the chaos, and for a split second, Sarah felt the ground beneath her feet give way in the chaos and confusion. She caught one last glimpse of his face, twisted with both fear and anger. And then, just as quickly, the room disappeared. The darkness wrapped around her once more, heavy and all-consuming, squeezing the breath from her lungs. Would she find a way back to the light, or would she be forever lost in her family's shadows? As she tumbled deeper into the void, a voice echoed one last time, tainted with urgency, "Face the truth before it's too late." And then there was nothing. The darkness pressed in tighter, a shroud of despair clinging to Sarah. Her heart thundered in her chest as she struggled to breathe. Where was the light? Where was Richard? Panic flooded her senses, sharp and overwhelming like a tidal wave crashing over her. Suddenly, a flicker broke through the blackness. A memory? A moment? She gasped as the shadows peeled away, revealing a flickering figure. Someone stood before her, cloaked in fog shifting just beyond her reach. It was a woman, her face obscured but eyes blazing with intensity, sharp against the void. "Sarah," the figure whispered, her voice a haunting melody of familiarity. It felt like an echo from the past, sending chills crawling down Sarah's spine. "Who are you?" Sarah cried out, her voice trembling. "What do you want from me?" "Your family's truth, you must find it." The voice reverberated through her, filling her with both dread and a desperate urge to understand. The woman's form shimmered, dissolving into wisps of smoke, leaving behind an ache of longing. Just as quickly, the darkness thickened, pulling Sarah further into its depths. She scrunched her eyes shut, giving in to the pull of shadows. When she opened them again, she was standing in the attic, the very place she'd fought so hard to escape. The air was heavy with memories, tendrils of lost time snaking around her. A dull wooden chest stood in the far corner, familiar yet foreign. The surface was layered with a thick coat of dust, and her fingers tingled with the need to touch it. She moved toward the chest, her heart racing at the possibility of finding something, anything that would make sense of it all. With a deep breath, she cracked the chest open. A flood of light erupted, illuminating its contents. Family heirlooms, yellowed documents, and an ancient-looking book bound in cracked leather. Sarah's eyes fell on the book. Drawn to it like a moth to a flame, she pulled it out, tracing her fingers along the faded spine. As she opened the book, a torrent of images surged through her mind. The faint echoes of laughter, the sounds of arguments, the whispers of secrets stitched into every page. Each turn felt like a jolt to her heart, pulling her in deeper. "Not that." A voice echoed, sharp and insistent. Richard's voice, filled with panic. Sarah spun around, but he wasn't there. Instead, the walls of the attic began to warp and twist, creeping ever closer. She tried to back away, but the shadows flared, anchoring her in place. "No, no," she gasped, the words barely escaping her throat. She focused on the book, desperate to drown out her fear. If the answers were hidden in these pages, she had to know. Heart racing, she read aloud, not fully understanding the gravity of her choice. As she stumbled over the words, light erupted from the pages, illuminating the entire attic. Memory after memory forced its way into her consciousness. The betrayal, the lies, the hidden relationships her parents had built, relationships that entangled her and Richard in ways she couldn't yet fathom. The book exploded with a blinding brilliance, and then silence. Breathless, Sarah found herself back in the bright room, the letter still clutched tightly in her hand. Only this time the photographs were alive. The eyes that once implored her now watched her with expectation and urgency. "Sarah, you must choose," the distant voice murmured, echoing through the room, vibrating with truth and uncertainty. "Will you follow the light or remain in the shadows?" Torn between the weight of the letter and the weight of her family's secrets, Sarah's heart sank deeper into turmoil. Could she confront the darkness, or would the truth she uncovered threaten to shatter everything? And then, just as fear threatened to consume her once more, she saw a figure emerging from the shadows behind Richard, shrouded in mystery, with an expression that stole the breath from her lungs. "Why did you really come back, Sarah?" the figure asked, a smirk playing on their lips, sending a chill down her spine. In that moment, she knew nothing would be the same again. Sarah's heart raced, pounding loudly in her ears as she stared at the figure that loomed behind Richard. The face, half hidden in shadow, bore a striking resemblance to someone she thought she had left behind forever. Was it really him? "Who are you?" she managed to choke out, her throat dry and tight. The question felt inadequate, overshadowed by the cacophony of emotions flooding her mind. Fear, confusion, and a creeping sense of betrayal. The figure stepped into the light, revealing the smirk that twisted their lips. It was Ethan, her estranged brother. The very brother she hadn't seen in years. In that moment, memories flooded her, arguments that split their once close family apart, the tension that drove him away. "I thought you were gone for good," she said, a mix of anger and hurt rushing through her. "What are you doing here?" Ethan took a step closer, and Richard instinctively moved to shield her, the tension palpable. "I'm here because of you, Sarah. Because of what you might find in that book." He gestured toward the ancient tome still clutched in her hands, its pages whispering secrets of their own. Richard's eyes darted between them, looking for clarity. "Sarah, is he your brother?" There was apprehension in his voice, a desire to protect her slicing through the air. "Half-brother," she corrected, still trying to comprehend what she felt seeing Ethan here. "You were supposed to be gone. You left us." "I had to," Ethan insisted, his tone sharpening. You don't understand the decisions I made. We were never going to be safe if I stayed. A hint of desperation crept into his voice, a plea for understanding that Sarah struggled to attach to the brother she once admired. Richard's brow furrowed. What did you do, Ethan? Enough. This isn't about me. Ethan snapped, frustration brewing just below the surface. It's about you both. The secrets, your parents' secrets, they're connected to this house. And to you. Sarah's breath hitched. Somehow their family history was intertwined with this deteriorating house, the weight of its walls pressing down on her. What secrets? What are you talking about? She lifted the book slightly, feeling its weight more than ever. Ethan moved closer still, lowering his voice to almost a whisper, his intensity palpable. They didn't just leave you this house. They left you something darker. Sarah, you need to understand what they were hiding. It goes beyond just inheritance. You have to decide which path you take. The ground seemed to shift beneath her feet as his words settled in her mind. A suffocating tension filled the space, igniting a spark of dread. But if I discover the truth, what will that mean for Richard and me? Richard took her hand, squeezing it tightly, anchoring her in the swirling storm. We'll figure it out together no matter what. Together? Ethan scoffed, his eyes snapping toward Richard. You think it's that simple? Family ties are blood ties, Sarah. They bind and break you. You need to choose now. His declaration echoed in the room, making the air feel heavy and electric. Sarah opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. It was as if the weight of her decision pressed against her chest, stifling her suddenly. The lights flickered ominously, and a cold chill swept through the room. Shadows danced around them, the walls of the house creaking as if alive. Make your choice, Sarah, Ethan urged, his voice rising above the chaos. Or the darkness will make it for you. The room fell into an unsettling silence, the shadows closing in. Will you confront your past? Or will you let it consume you? Her mind raced as she looked between Richard and Ethan, the tension gripping her. Sarah knew one thing. She was standing at a precipice. The question echoed dangerously. What was the cost of truth? And would she dare to find out? Sarah's throat tightened as she faced Ethan, the air thick with a mix of dread and uncertainty. She felt Richard's presence beside her, grounding her as the shadows shifted, bringing a palpable sense of threat. What do you mean by darker? Her voice trembled as much from fear as defiance. What could possibly be worse than what we've already lost? Ethan scoffed again. You really have no idea, do you? The house. It's not just a relic. It's a beacon. For what you ask. He leaned in, lowering his voice further. For dark forces. And that book. It's a key. A way to unlock secrets best left buried. Richard's grip on her hand intensified, his knuckles turning white. What kind of secrets? And why would our family hide something like that? Because they didn't care about you like they claimed to. Ethan spat, the intensity of his anger swirling around them. They sacrificed everything to keep this from you, your life, your future, everything. Sarah's heart hammered in her chest. Anger and betrayal battled within her, igniting her blood. You think I'm just going to believe everything you say? This is insane. Insane. Ethan raised his arms in exasperation. What's insane is pretending that any of this is normal. You inherited a haunted house wrapped in a terror that stretches back through generations. Their past is your future unless you confront it now. The lights flickered again, casting sharp shadows across the room. The long-forgotten whisper swirled within the fragile silence. Sarah felt a chill seep into her bones, her mind racing to make sense of it all. Richard stepped in front of her, his jaw set. We don't need to listen to him. He left. He abandoned us, Sarah. You don't have to make this choice alone. Right or wrong, it doesn't matter how much time has passed. Ethan sneered, his eyes glinting with something sinister. You're still part of this darkness. Whether you like it or not. Stop, Sarah shouted, her voice rising over the tumult. Just tell me what I need to know. What is it I'm supposed to do? I can't just choose to walk into the unknown. Ethan's expression shifted, a flash of vulnerability breaking through. You need to understand the nature of the inheritance. The book, the house. They're linked to a secret covenant our family entered. You're the last in line. If you don't take control, that power will consume you. What are you saying? Her heart raced, each word feeling like a brick in her chest. There's a way to harness it or to free yourself from it. But you have to be willing to confront the past, Sarah, all of it. The walls rattled, as if responding to Ethan's threat. Did this house have a voice too? And if it did, what secrets would it reveal? The echo of her childhood dreams faded into a suffocating reality. Richard squeezed her hand, voice firm. Whatever this is, we'll face it together. I won't let you do this alone. We'll find the truth even if it scares us. For the first time, Sarah felt the weight of their situation settle into clarity. The decisions ahead would tear at the fabric of her understanding. If there's a choice to confront what's the price. Ethan's smirk widened, but his eyes darkened with a hint of something that chilled her. Everything. You might have to decide what you're willing to lose, Sarah. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled. The air thickened, pulling at her lungs. A low rumble resonated, shaking the very foundation of the house, and that desperate moment, Sarah realized truth was about to unveil itself, but at what cost? Would she dare to confront the darkness lurking behind her family's facade? Make your choice, Sarah. Ethan shouted above the noise, but before she could respond, a sudden and blinding flash of light erupted, engulfing the room. Sarah felt herself disintegrating within the chaos, her reality twisting, blurring, and reshaping itself as the world around her shifted. A piercing scream echoed through the house, a scream that didn't come from her. What had she awakened? And amidst the chaos, the question loomed larger than ever. Could she survive the truth, or would it shatter everything she held dear? The bright flash receded, leaving Sarah disoriented in a haze of swirling colors and echoes of distant laughter. The scream still rang in her ears, a chilling reminder that she was not alone. She blinked rapidly, trying to orient herself in this altered reality. The familiar shape of the living room had morphed. The walls twisted into grotesque figures, their texture smooth like glass yet undulating, mesmerizing and horrifying at the same time. It was like stepping into a nightmarish painting, a collage of her fears and doubts. "Richard," she called, her voice sounding small and lost. As she turned, she caught sight of him, struggling through the ebb and flow of the strange landscape. He flailed his arms, reaching for her but swallowed by the shadows that danced around his feet. "Sarah!" His voice strained and panicked. "Stay close." She took off, fighting against the pulling force of the swirling darkness, her heart racing with fear. Each step felt heavier, as if the air thickened around her. "I'm coming." As she neared him, the ground shifted again with a reverberation that felt like breath. Inhale, exhale, alive. The shadows solidified, revealing figures of people she barely recognized. They loomed large against the distorted background, whispering secrets and half-formed thoughts. Ethan stood among them, his expression transformed from manic to something almost serene. "Welcome to the crossroads, Sarah," he said, his voice echoing like a melody. "Here storylines converge. You can't run from your truth. It's the only way forward." "Stop. Just tell me how to get out," she shouted, her panic rising. His response was a sly smile, edged with cruelty. "You think you can avoid the past? Look around. This is just the beginning." Suddenly, the figures in the shadows sharpened into focus. Her family, their faces twisted in pain and sorrow. Henry, her grandfather, eyes wide with terror. Her mother, glancing backward with regret as if trying to escape a haunting memory. Even her old dog, Max, sat alert and watchful, his gaze locked onto a corner of the room as if sensing a lurking danger. Sarah, her mother's voice broke through the chaos like glass shattering. "You must remember you cannot run forever." Trapped in a storm of emotions, Sarah felt her heart split. Memories flooded back, tinged with regret. The fights, the secrets, the fear, everything she had tried to forget now pressed against her like a suffocating blanket. "No. Then Ethan gestured to the book lying on the ground, its pages fluttering in an unseen breeze. "It holds the answers you seek. But the truth is powerful. Are you ready to uncover the rest of your family's bargain?" She wanted to turn away, to ignore the truth she could almost taste on her tongue. But the pulsing of the room beckoned. Would she dare approach? The weight of her heritage lay heavy on her shoulders, pulling her closer to the delicate book, its spine glowing with an otherworldly light. But as she took a step forward, Richard lunged at her arm, his fear palpable. "Don't, Sarah. What if it's a trap?" Caught between the two forces, the allure of forbidden knowledge and Richard's desperate pull, Sarah felt the walls of her reality close in. Which path would she surrender to? What would unlocking the truth demand of her? The shadows whispered her name, and just then, a piercing shriek erupted, a voice unmistakable. "Sarah! Help me!" It was her sister, lost in the depths of the house she had inherited. The call cut through her like a knife, igniting a fierce urgency within her. Had she unwittingly placed her family in even greater danger? With determination ushering her forward, Sarah knew she had to make a choice. What price would she pay for salvation, and how deep would the darkness go? The house trembled around Sarah, vibrating with anticipation as the echoes of her sister's cries faded into the shadows. "Sarah! Help me!" The urgency spurred her forward. The truth she had been unraveling was no longer just about her. It was about saving her sister too. "Ethan, help me!" she shouted, her voice fighting through the dark chaos swirling around them. The figures now surged with life, faces morphing into pleading visages, urging her to act. The book at her feet shimmered, an enticing promise within its words, almost like a siren's call. "Don't!" Richard's grip tightened around her arm. "We can find a way without opening that." Panic dripped from his voice like water under pressure. Fear radiated off him, and she understood. He wanted to protect her, but she had a different urgency coursing through her veins. "I can't leave her," Sarah yelled back, pulling away slightly. Fighting back the tears that threatened to spill, she looked at Richard with determination. "We will face this together." She stepped toward the book, heart pounding in her chest. As her fingers brushed against the worn leather, a wave of energy surged through her, and the shadows cast by the figures writhed in anticipation. She could almost hear their breaths alive, echoing her fears and her hopes. "Sarah, it's your choice," Ethan's voice broke through. "The knowledge within could either save her or doom you both. If you're willing to face the darkness, if you truly want to break free from our family's curse, you need to embrace the truth." She hesitated. Was she ready to unlock all these horrors? But the thought of Brenda's terrified screams propelled her to action. "I'm doing it," she declared, her voice unwavering. Richard jumped in front of her. "No, you can't," but it was too late. With a deep breath, Sarah opened the book. Light exploded from its pages, illuminating every corner of the room. The shadows recoiled, shrieking in protest as knowledge poured forth like a waterfall, flooding her senses. The images swirled in front of her, memories of betrayal, of love twisted by darkness, of each family member's choices culminating in this moment. She saw everything: the affair, the lies, the decisions that led to their separation. These weren't just her parents' secrets. They were the keys to understanding who she truly was. The weight of their legacy pressed down on her, but she stood strong. "Remember," her mother's voice echoed through the screeching chaos. "The truth is both a curse and a blessing." Through her blurred vision, Sarah focused on the words appearing on the page like a tapestry weaving together their fractured history. Each line resonated deeply, shifting the very air around her. What she felt was more than just knowledge, it was a call to action. "Brenda!" she cried, channeling all her energy, heart beating fiercely. "I'm coming for you." In that moment, the shadows transformed, morphing into a swirling vortex, pulling her closer to the exit she needed. The fabric of reality bent as she stepped further into the light, breaking free from the prison of her family's dark past. "Sarah!" Richard shouted, but she couldn't turn back now. The truth had set her ablaze, igniting a fierce determination within. Suddenly, the world shifted once more. She exploded through the barrier, emerging into a familiar room, the cold air, the familiar lingering scent of dust and dampness. She was back in the house, but something felt different. She felt empowered. "Brenda!" Sarah shouted, and the walls reverberated with her resolve. The house responded, almost relenting to her command, as if the darkness recognized her strength and allowed her to choose. "Sarah!" Suddenly, Brenda appeared before her, trapped in a spiral of shadows, clenching her teeth in fear. Relief flooded through Sarah. She rushed to her sister, the warmth of family washing over her as she reached to pull Brenda free. "Don't worry. I found the truth, and I will save you." The shadows hissed and recoiled as Sarah took hold of Brenda's hand. "Don't let it pull you in." Brenda gasped, looking terrified. But Sarah felt a surge of energy fueled by the truth she uncovered. "We're stronger than this. Together." With one powerful tug, Sarah pulled Brenda from the grasp of the shadows. They stumbled into the light, breathless but alive as the house groaned one last time. The oppressive weight lifted. They both stood under the breaking dawn, the horrors of the night fading behind them. Behind them, the house seemed to exhale a deep sigh, relinquishing its grip on their lives. "Is it over?" Brenda whispered, hope coloring her voice, tears welling in her eyes. For a moment, Sarah didn't know how to answer. But then she felt a lightness in her heart, no longer shackled by the past but reverberating with the essence of forgiveness and love. "It is," she said, determination replacing fear. "We'll work through this together." And in that moment of clarity, they stepped away from the house that had once been a prison, and toward a future they could shape together. The history bound by shadows had been unveiled, but now they would write the future tales filled with hope, understanding, and unity. Sarah took a deep breath, gazing at her sister, a smile breaking through filled with warmth. "We're finally free. Now, before you fade away, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will dive into more thrilling revelations. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and ensure more captivating tales come your way. Don't forget to flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. I want to hear all your thoughts. What did you think of the twist? What do you believe awaits Sarah and Brenda next? And share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Share the love and connections. Don't wait even one more second.